technologies and practices towards resilient cities and coastal areas. Well, I'm always pleased to introduce to you the moderator, Dr. Wahnschafft, who has been supporting the forum for more than a decade. So we are very grateful. Ralph, you have the floor. Ralph, are you there? Yes. Cool.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, very well. Go ahead, please.
Good. Thank you very much, Christine. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sorry. I thank you, and I thank also Haifeng for inviting me once more to a very interesting annual session of the Global Forum on Human Settlements. We just heard a very interesting session on the issue of the role of water in early warning systems. And I think Maria has set the bar very high for us. But we will take this information on the early warning systems in general and move on now to more practical aspects regarding resilient cities and coastal areas, where we will focus on policies, technologies, and practices. If we reflect on our session, we have 90 minutes at our disposal. We have in my program 5 presenters and 3 commentators, and we will reflect, as I said, on the cities. So let me just take a quick look at our program brochure. We have Dr. Avni Behnam. I already see him on the screen. We also expect Ms. Loretta Hieber Girardet from the UNDRR. I'm not sure if I see her. But, and then Dr. Alexander Jachnow from the Netherlands, Ms. Crystal Wang from the Country Garden Group in China, as well as Mr. Dr. Bob Yang, also from Tianjin, China. I believe this is the current program. Christine, any last minute changes?
We just, after the presentation, we have 3 more commentators.
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So on this note, then let's start with the presentations, and then we hope to have opportunity for reflections and discussions and comments. We will hear from the commentators. I would like to invite our panelists to also, in their concluding remarks, focus on specifically identifying 1 or 2 important issues, because we have to think about our report and how we have 40-50 participants, but how we communicate the main messages that come from this session to the other audiences. So please articulate some of these points. We will try to take note and we will reflect it in our respective reports. So on this note, I'd like to invite Dr. Avni Behnam, who is a former United Nations Assistant Secretary General. He is also the honorary president of the International Oceans Institute and an affiliate professor at the University of Malta. Oceans have received increasing attention in recent years and months, and we are grateful for Dr. Behnam to be with us this evening in China and morning in Europe. Dr. Behnam, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coordinator. Dr. Lo Haifeng, Secretary General, distinguished participants, Christina, I'm grateful for having invited me to this important session, 17th session. My focus is very narrow and very on the issue of the future of port cities and in the blue economy. I have recalled on earlier occasions the symbiotic relationship between ocean and coast, incorporating two directions, having to learn to live with the ocean and from the ocean in a sustainable relationship. Is a principle of the blue economy, which is a redefinition of human relationship between ocean and coast. Over the years, the role of the port city has dramatically changed. The blue economy has compounded that change. That the prime dominance of the port city became less important in terms of physical, spatial, economic, governance importance. As the blue economy concept brought unlimited competition from new stakeholders to this congested blue coast. Management and governance challenges of sustainable, fair utilization of coastal space is no longer the prime responsibility of the port city or of the port economy. As under the blue economy, there are providers of multiple opportunities in terms of the coastal interaction between what was a port city, what is now is a blue city. Managing blue ocean space is complex and demanding. The essential components of these concepts are the interconnectedness of emerging global challenges of ocean and coast in all their diversity. The blue economy opens the door to a wealth of opportunities, but it represents a major challenge in managing and the governance of conflicting demands and obligations. Thus, as a concept, it transcends maritime or marine economy into an ocean-urban nexus of sustainability. The benefits of blue economy can only be realized through application of management principles, such as the precautionary approach, polluter pays principle, linkages to science, ecosystem approach, stewardship, compliance, and enforcement. And now we have to deal with a number of tools, area-based management tools, marine spatial planning, marine protected areas, common heritage, etc. For the transition to blue economy, which enlarges the definition of the coastal zone, of biophysical, social, economic demands, where the dimension of the area enlarges, and both the economic and the social remits, thus leading to a much wider but conflicting space that is sustainably managed, delimited, or shared exclusively. So the blue economy implies a substantial increase of stakeholders with overlapping spatial demands, requiring a change of mindset and acceptance of moral and ethical values and settlement in the settlement of disputes through peaceful persuasion. The blue economy of the blue coast and the blue city, former port city, provides unlimited opportunities for job creation, However, it generates downstream and upstream activities with connectivity inland through river catchments, etc., and further inland through improved efficiency. Associated are the economic benefits through new opportunities as in economic rewards, food security, recreation, energy, artificial structures, marine genetic resources, traffic separation scheme, the list goes on and on. For each activity, there could be overlapping and prohibitive spatial allocation. On the one hand, the blue economy is a country's gateway to a smart, sustainable blue growth and job creation through new drivers in ocean seas, specifically coastal management, providing an environment for innovation, competitiveness, contributing to wealth and satisfaction of the habitants. The other side of the coin is the enlarged number of stakeholders competing for a spatial benefits with conflicting demands and needs that change the coastal zone in a new direction. Hence, the imperative of resolving spatial needs of overlapping demands of stakeholders in the coast and the zone and beyond. Dr. Charles Ehler brilliantly coined the solution in 3 letters, MSP, Marine Spatial Planning. Back in 2006, in his work at UNESCO IOC, he defined MSP as a public process of analyzing and allocating the spatial and temporal distribution of human activities to achieve ecological, economic, and social objectives that one usually specified through political process. And here is the link, the political process and the scientific process. MSP is explained as numerous different manners. You can call it what you want, ICZM, ocean zoning. What matters is the outcome of the process. If we want sustainable fisheries, safe navigation, sustainable energy supply, enhanced ocean and coastal security, robust coastal and marine economies, ecosystems services, reduce conflict among stakeholders, reduction of conflict between use and nature, the protection of the ecology. The sustainable application, therefore, of MSP is a compiled, data-based process of research, finance, implementation, monitoring, performance, and evaluation of all stakeholders' needs and responsibilities. The result of imposing MSP is sustainable fisheries, energy supply, enhanced safety and security, robust coastal and marine economies, maintenance of ecosystem services, reduction of conflicts among stakeholders. That was not the experience before of the port and the port city. That is now in the past. MSP is a more sophisticated, science-based and greater data-intensive than ICZM. It is a transit from traditional ocean and coastal use and MSP is the necessity tool of the future. You can never escape the fact that as we move into a blue economy mindset, you're going to have congestion and you're going to have conflict of interest, and that needs a scientific base supported by a political stand in order to It is the new science of sustainable coastal realities. It is the future and the present. We have realized the importance of marine spatial planning as necessity as we can continue this interaction between coast and the ocean. At IOI, as a knowledge-based institution, we have mainstreamed MSP as a primary need for coastal sustainability in our programs of education, training, and the academy. We are also at the beginning of addressing this through ocean literacy. It is complex, but it is necessary if we have the future insight of the change that is inescapable of utilizing the ocean, living with it, and from it sustainably. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
10 minutes.
Dr. Yeah, very good. I would like to have maybe take up two questions at the moment. One is, I mean, you emphasize the marine spatial planning and zoning. In terms of institutional setup, which institution is in charge or should be in charge of this kind of aspect? And could you expand a bit on the interrelation with the port city? Before we broaden it to coastal cities, you talked about port cities. So these two aspects, maybe we can clarify a bit for our audience.
The port city was before the new technology that came into shipping and in trade, and basically containerization, where the space where the port is became no longer, because the containerization is about throughput. It's about door-to-door transfer of trade. So therefore, its place only as a transit point is no longer the importance of the port as the gateway to that. The port has moved inland, and the ports are no longer but transit points where ships can come and go. Now, in using the ocean as the blue economy with all the opportunities that we have, then we would have to, the port does not play any longer that because there are other uses of the coast and the ocean beyond what the port. The port now is a transit point. So therefore, you have energy, you have wind farms, you have fisheries, aquaculture, you have recreation. All these are blue uses that open the door with the blue economy that are based on a principle of sustainability, of course. When we say living with the ocean is, and from the ocean is what we take. The fish we take, the energy, whatever that it provides us. And so what has happened now, the port was kind of the center, the hub for the management of the coast. Now it's no longer. It's a cluster of issues. You have the fisheries, you have the energy, you have the recreation, all the kind of new products that we can take from the ocean, provided taken sustainably, has to be managed. And therefore, there has to be an independent arbitrator who is going to help in planning and allocating the conflicting space, where recreation would conflict with aquaculture, where the navigation would conflict with the wind farms, etc. So no longer the port is the center of decision making in the coast. It has been replaced by all these factors, all these uses in the blue economy. And that's to say on the port is no longer the ruling king in the coast.
Right. Thank you very much for pointing out the multiple interrelations between the different economic activities and sectors, and in a spatial context of coasts being, the bridge between the land and the sea.
That's right.
Good. On this note, then let's move on, and I invite Ms. Loretta Hieber Girardet. She is with the United Nations Office of Disaster Risk Reduction, which is also a partner in this forum today. And she is the Chief of Risk Knowledge Monitoring and Capacity Development at the UNDRR. I believe the office is in Geneva. So Mrs. Girardet, please.
Thank you very much. Yes, my office is in Geneva, but I'm actually in Nairobi today. So greetings from Kenya. And on behalf of the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, it's really a pleasure to be able to speak to you about some of the issues that are concerning us now regarding resilient cities and coastal areas. And I think this is interesting that this event is happening just a few weeks after COP27, which fortunately has not led to a significant increase in terms of the ambition around carbon emission decrease. However, there is a real understanding, I think, now on the need to better address loss and damages. So perhaps I'd like to start off by saying that at COP27, we launched a campaign called Zero Climate Disasters. And perhaps at first glance, the idea that we could live in a world with zero climate disasters might seem overly ambitious or perhaps even unrealistic. But we believe that it is actually doable and within our grasp if, and this is a big if we transform our thinking in our action. Where do we currently stand? This is no surprise to any of you that as we approach the midway point of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and also the midway point of the Sendai Framework, we are nowhere near close to achieving the objectives that we have set for ourselves for both sustainable development, but also for better management of disaster and linked to this, of course, climate risks. So of the billions of words spoken and written about the climate emergency, I might want to just repeat what the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said last month in Sharm el-Sheikh. His words were, "We are on a highway to climate hell with our foot still on the accelerator." This is a damning statement, but it's actually true. We can see that we have the understanding and the tools at our disposal to not only take our foot off the accelerator, but quickly reverse course and embark on a journey in the opposite direction towards zero climate disasters. What we're lacking is political will, financial will, and really a greater collective ambition to seize the moment for a future without climate disasters. And this is why we're really trying to push this idea of zero climate disasters. Obviously, we need to reduce emissions, but at the same time, we really have to scale up disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. And in particular, what we are seeing in many of the countries where we work is that there's a lack of attention to vulnerability reduction. Now, you probably all know that for us, risk is the equation of the hazards, but also the vulnerability and the exposure. And so we believe there's really far more we can do to reduce the vulnerabilities of populations on the front line of the climate emergency, but also the exposure. And this goes very much to the heart of the question of coastal cities, where we see so much exposure going on right now and inadequate measures, I would say, to address this and to reduce the exposure to often very repeated climate and disaster-related events. Now, I heard in the session before that you've already spoken about providing early warning systems for all people, but we do believe that this is a very critical adaptation and disaster risk reduction measure that will go a long way towards saving people's lives and livelihoods. And we did issue a report earlier, a few months ago, that really demonstrated that 1/3 of the world's population are still not covered by early warning systems. And many of these people live in urban areas of the least developed countries and small island developing states. And in Africa, where I am today, that's 60% of the population. And I heard one of our colleagues just mention that it is a human right to have early warning systems. I couldn't agree more. Of course, the $3.1 billion cost of this initiative may seem a little steep, but when we bear in mind that that's really just 50 cents per person per year for the next 5 years, it really helps put it in perspectives. One thing I would like to point out about this initiative on early warning is that issuing a warning, as you've all said, is not enough. Early action is not enough. Because what we're actually seeing in many of these contexts are recurrent disasters hitting the same population groups over and over again. And flooding is a very good example of this, where it is the riverine populations that are exposed repeatedly to flooding. And this is essentially causing them to lose their livelihoods and unfortunately sometimes their lives and their homes. We know through our disaster loss accounting systems where these populations are, and we are able to track the types of losses and damages that are being incurred by these populations. So as we scale up early warning and anticipatory action and early action, I think we must also really double down our efforts on locally led adaptation so that we are simply not waiting for these disasters to occur, but we're actually getting ahead of the curve and reducing, as I've mentioned before, the vulnerability and exposure to these events through scale up and adaptation. And we are still falling short of the funding that has been promised on adaptation. So I think that this is really a critical issue moving forward. So one thing I would also like to share with you is that our office, the UNDRR, along with 11 core partners, launched the Making Cities Resilient 2030 initiative, with the effort of really ensuring that no municipality is left behind in the effort to strengthen climate and disaster resilience. And as of today, the partnership has mobilized more than 1,460 local governments, and this represents 454 million people. And the aim of this initiative is to really bring together different core actors that can help local governments put in place resilience building measures. And we are trying to promote a peer-to-peer exchange between different municipalities around the world so that they can learn from each other, whether they're resource-constrained cities or whether they are cities that actually are able to mobilize different resources. Each of these cities are trying different actions to help reduce their climate and disaster risk. So I'm going to just share a few examples with you, starting with Wrocław in Poland. And this is a city that has taken in more than 250,000 refugees from the war in neighboring Ukraine. And the deputy mayor, Mr. Jakub Mazur, has been sharing his experience of how they have been able, and they have prioritized essentially maintaining a green track throughout this entire crisis. And so he has been traveling and sharing his experiences about how they are coping as a society across the various sectors, health, education, and others, to take short-term action in relation to the influx of refugees while also maintaining a longer-term green growth. And so we've really been inspired by his leadership and helping him spread the word of what they are experiencing. And then I would also give the example of the Campinas in Brazil, which has been experiencing severe storms and flooding. It was so impacted by flooding that it has prompted a transformation in two fronts, with the municipality institutionalizing and mainstreaming a resilience agenda into its local development planning. And this started some 20 years ago. So in 2003, they really were devastated by severe storms. Since then, the number of the city's districts that are exposed to flooding and landslides has reduced from 75 to 30. So it's a decrease of 64%. So these are the types of measures that can be taken to reduce disaster and climate risk, provided you have the political leadership. And I give you perhaps one more example, and this is the Korean city of Incheon. As periods of extreme temperature become more common, this is a coastal city that has decided to get ahead of the hazard and has set a goal of 0 heat wave casualties and damage. And what it's using is big data to focus resources on where the vulnerability, the most vulnerable populations lie, where does the exposure lie. And it's increased its heat wave management funding by 20%. But what's unique is that it's established a team of 7,000 heat wave helpers, as they're called, who really act as first responders during danger periods. And they look at where are the most vulnerable populations. And this heat wave plan goes hand in hand with a comprehensive flood management strategy. So these are just examples of cities that are finding ways to manage these extreme weather events, and in some cases, really reduce the disaster risk. So we do believe that hazards do not have to become disasters that devastate. And I'm very happy to announce that the Making Cities Resilient initiative is already working with the organizers of COP28 in Dubai to showcase the good practices that are taking place at the city level and to bring to COP28 an urban agenda that really can focus attention on the fact that these cities are both on the front line of the disaster risk, but they're also innovating. And it's really important that we share how cities are contributing to a future where disasters and climate change do not actually lead to irreparable damages for populations. So I'd like to end here, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Girardet, for this overall introduction and overview and summary. You already mentioned several examples, but I would be happy if you could expand and give us some more examples and thereby also focus on our coastal cities. I'm sure that you will prepare, or you have already published maybe some publications of the Making Cities Resilient initiative. So if we zoom in on the subgroup of the coastal cities, which are the measures that you think are the most important or so-called low-hanging fruits, or what are the priorities that come to your mind in that context?
Thank you very much. Yes, I mean, along coastal areas, one of our biggest priorities where we're working as an organization is really helping them better understand the climate and disaster risks. And what we have been finding in many different countries is that some of their strategies tend to be quite generic. And they're not really contextualized to the coast, to the city themselves. So we have been working across the organization and with partners to help develop risk profiles at the city level that look at not only the disasters that they have occurred in the past to help with their planning, but also to downscale climate change modeling to the city level and to use this information to inform the urban planning. And this is something that one would think happens automatically, but it actually isn't. Many of the plans that we have seen do not take into account yet the climate future. And so subsequently, you see across the world, unfortunately, planning and infrastructure development in particular, that is what we would call not risk informed. So really building the risk knowledge is a very important component of our work. And then in other places where we are working, it is very much around building infrastructure resilience and helping cities develop infrastructure strategies, infrastructure development strategy. Because unfortunately, what's happening is not only that the current infrastructure is exposed, but we're building new risks with the new infrastructure. And so this is the type of work that we're hoping to see becomes quite very much second nature to cities, using better risk information, infrastructure planning that takes into account the climate future, as well as looking at where past disasters are occurring. And then, of course, we're also trying to showcase good practices where we see good innovations, such as sponge cities that have in places like in China, for example, where they're really trying to develop approaches and methodologies to deal with hydrometeorological events. We are trying to expand the exchange of information about how to deal with heat waves. And then perhaps one additional piece of work that we've been doing at a global level is we've developed a Center of Excellence on disaster and climate resilience to try to pull together the different types of interventions needed to address the hazards that we're facing in the future. And so we'll be starting with drought, but also heat waves, torrential rains, and which mudslides. So these are the types of interventions that we are trying to really share across our partnership and to learn from each other with the good examples. But of course, maybe my final point will be what we're seeing with cities is often they are lacking the resources to implement resilience strategies, even where they are able to put them into place. Funding remains a very serious problem, as does the issue of cities being linked to national strategies and national planning. So we are trying to also support them in these two domains as well.
Thank you very much again. I would have one proposal. I mean, we have several presentations, and I believe in many cases the slides will eventually also be accessible via the GFHS website. In this case, I would like to invite you or propose that I'm sure you have like policy briefs or informative materials of this kind. If you would make that available or links to those resources, I'm sure many people will be interested in making use of that. So thank you, Ms. Girardet, and we move on and I invite Dr. Alexander Jachnow, who is from the Netherlands, a country that is very much experienced in coastal area management and flood protection. Dr. Jachnow is the team leader of the INTPA Urban Development Technical Facility. He is working with the Institute of Housing and Urban Development Studies in the University of Rotterdam. I'm sure you have more functions that I have not yet mentioned. Please do so, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Ralph. And thank you very much, Haifeng, Christine, for inviting me again. Always a pleasure to be here to talk. Today, actually, I'm in two different functions, and I should clarify this because the INTPA, which is the International Partnership section of the European Union, is building up an urban development technical facility, which is very relevant for partner countries. So all partner countries listening, there will be an urban development technical facility in the European Union, which has three functions. One of them is to support programs and projects in developing countries in urban areas. And of course, resilience, Green Deal, just transition, all these parts are very relevant for the European Union to finance. And we will build this facility to make these connections. So I'm very happy to get in touch with you afterwards. You can find me very easily. I'm the only bearer of this name. You find me on LinkedIn. The one position I'm leaving is I have been for the last 9 years the head of the Urban Planning and Spatial Policies Department in the IHS, the Institute of Housing Studies at Erasmus University at Rotterdam, and where I worked, more from a research, more from a theory basis towards the questions of resilience, of better cities in general, because I think the first statement that I would like to do, cities have to be everything. There is no focus that we should give or exclusively give to development of cities. Resilience now is a big thing, and of course we have to work on resilience, but we also have to work on spatial justice, we have to work on mobility, we have to work on social transitions. Cities are a catalyst for social transition, so we have to be also aware that family sizes, that behaviors, that how our youth is educated, etc., that has a lot to do with cities. And everything that we do in cities, it's our habitat. Yeah, so as a bird has a nest, we have a city. And that is something that humankind has been increasingly putting efforts in it. And I don't have to repeat this because for the last 20 years already, people are saying half of humanity is living in cities. I would say that 60 to 70% of humans are living urban lifestyles already. If you think about the use of cell phones, the use of or other digital equipment, the kind of life we have. So this all culminates in urban lifestyles, and it all culminates in the need to build cities, and that is a spatial factor of it, because often ignored also if you talk about resilient infrastructure, if you talk about how we build cities, we often think that a city is some product, some outcome of an understanding, some implementation of a plan. It is not. It's a very dynamic mechanism. It is always changing. Processes are cities, cities are processes and not products. So if you want to understand how we make better cities or how we make our cities more resilient, we have to really understand how we enhance the dynamics that help making the processes resilient. Yeah, for example, we just had from the previous speaker, we heard about resilience infrastructure, and that new infrastructure is also causing new risks. And that is absolutely true, because many things that we are building in the cities now, like in the backdrop, you will see Bangkok, and actually both photos are from Bangkok. This is Bangkok during the flooding, and this is Bangkok during the tourist season. So water in the city is a factor that can be very harmful, and it can be very beautiful at the same time. So it is really how we deal with it, what we make out of it, that then enhances the way we want or we don't want. And to make it a bit easier, because I cannot talk about all these spatial aspects of cities, I have chosen to illustrate it along two different, very conflicting rationalities. One is the compact city that has been very much promoted during the 2016 New Urban Agenda event. In the New Urban Agenda, it is the Habitat 3 event in Quito. We know that Barcelona, for example, is a great city, and it is great because it is compact, but it's also not so compact in terms of population. It's just a build up compact city that works very well because it has been built over hundreds of years, as it is now, or even thousands of years if you think about the Romans founding Barcelona. And now we have a city that is very well adapted to its climate, to its people, to its social and infrastructural functions, etc. Also to the geography, also to waters. It is a coastal city. but it has been compact because it was evolved that way. We should not take this model of compact city and promote it as a general solution. Compact cities have advantages. They can, for example, they can make our commuting distances shorter. They will be more infrastructure efficient because you would build shorter water lines, for example, or pipelines for water, electricity cables, etc. So there is a lot of benefits from compact cities. But in climate change, if we put another layer to this and think about my backgrounds of water, we have to be very careful if you really want to promote a city that is very densely built. Resilient cities are actually often not like naturally resilient cities, are often much more giving space to nature. They give more areas. You have maybe heard about the Dutch concept of room to the river. We don't claim it to be a Dutch, but we apply it. The room to the river concept, where you say, okay, instead of like channelizing the river in the city, we extend the areas where it can flow over in times of flooding or rain seasons. So my point here is mainly that if we think about the compactness of built infrastructure versus the possibility of building resilience, there is a very strong morphological factor to the aspect of resilience. We have to make cities that work in their climate, that work with their waters, that have the possibility to extend, that are like also there is a concept of sponge city, where sponge also requires more space. The idea of sponge is that the city's soil absorbs most of the rainwater, instead that you have to channel it and have to bring it to a water treatment plant or to the rivers or to the sea even. So you would try to have the water sink in where it falls, the rainwater. And sponge city is another morphological solution, or it is very much related to morphological aspects and ideas. So what I want to say, if we think cities from a resilient point of view, if we think cities from all the other aspects of livability, of usefulness, of economic development, of prosperity, etc., we should always think about the morphology they need or they have generated. And of course, there can be over years wrong developments or developments that are not favoring all these positive aspects. The vision of a prosperous city requires definitely certain amounts of density. It requires certain amounts of diversity, etc., to be functional in an economic term as well. But it is very individual determined. It's not that you can take one city concept and take it to another city. It is something that you have to develop out of the conditions in the city on the ground. And of course, you can use a lot of best practices and examples from other countries. The other point that I wanted to make, or where I want to finalize, I think urban development is something that can in fact help us to be more resilient, not just in cities, but as global population, as humans on this earth. We have built very anthropogenic cities. We have created of course, cities are made by men. They're per default man-made, human-made, women-made, children-made, but they are also maybe our anthropocentric solutions for living along with nature, living with disaster risk, reducing disaster risk, and taking all the benefits that a city development plan can bring if we are consistent with our planning, if we have a way to understand, for example, the room of the water, the way a coastal line should be built up, the way we, instead of building a seawall, we can also build space. And with this, I would like to close here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexander, for drawing our attention to these different aspects. Now I should like to say I'm still a little bit conservative, and I would like to still highlight the advantages of the general concept of the compact city. I guess we can see that the two models can, in fact, I mean, they're not mutually exclusive, because when we think of compactness or the advantages of compactness, we don't necessarily mean forever expanded urban spaces. We also have the concept of the Randstadt, or the different kind of urban centers, which are interconnected, but which also provide a lot of open spaces in between. So I think that maybe is something that combines your ideas with that of the compact city in some fashion. When we mean compact, we don't mean everything into one. And also, I mean, I think we should be very well aware of the multiple advantages that dispersion can offer in the context of climate change, whether it's lesser risk, better absorption, and all kinds of these aspects. So I was trying to see if there is any question in the chat box, but I don't see, or they have already left. So let's come back to our reflection in the general discussion with the panelists later. I invite Ms. Crystal Wang, the Deputy Director, the Deputy General Manager of Overseas and the Special Administrative Region Division of the Country Garden Group, who will share with us updates of the forest city as a green, smart, sustainable city. We have heard of the forest city on earlier occasions, but I think she will emphasize the most recent developments, as well as the perspectives as the forest city being also like a seafront, oceanfront cities with all the pros and cons that come with it.
Okay.
So, Ms. Wang, please.
Thank you. Can you see my screen here?
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay, good. Good afternoon and good morning, ladies and gentlemen and distinguished participants. It's my great honor here today to present on behalf of Forest City. And this is a actual picture just taken, I think, last month on site. So let me start. My presentation consists of 3 parts. And for those of you who don't know Country Garden, I'll give you just a brief introduction of the company. We are actually listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange since 2007. And we ranked 138th on the Fortune 500 list, and also 254th on the Forbes Global 2000. And we've been operating in the property development industry since 1992, which is already over 30 years now. And we have served more than 4.5 million customers, over 3,000 projects in over 1,400 towns globally. And the sales revenue up to date, it's around 244 billion RMB. And we have, the company has employed over 200,000 employees. And the company is very donated on the charity works. Over the years, we have donated over 10 billion RMBs on the charity donations. And a brief introduction of Forest City project itself. It is a development jointly developed by Country Garden and EDSB since 2015. And the project is located in Iskandar, Malaysia. Iskandar is a especially economic zone by the Malaysia. And the project is adjacent to the second link of Singapore and Malaysia border, about 55 kilometers away from the Singapore Changi International Airport and 40 kilometers away from the Johor Senai International Airport. And the total development area is approximately 30 square kilometers. And as you guys might already know, it is developed on the reclaimed land. This project is aimed to have 4 man-made islands. And so far, we've already been, the island has been built for the first one, and the area is about 3 square kilometers. And once the project is completed and equipped with various facilities and amenities, the green and sustainable development is positioned to be a prime model of the future cities where green, ecological, smart, multicultural, and city industrial integrations qualities adapted to its plan. And the first city expands the operation space of the city through vertical greenery, and you can see from the facades, and a 3-dimensional traffic system. Continuously introduced 8 major industries to create livable and business-friendly urban life experiences, and developed a green, smart, and model of the future cities. Forest City has a unique coastlines, mangrove ecological river, giant green maze, eco museum, golf resorts, marina hotels, affordable water parks, and some of the recreational facilities, and also international schools, healthcare service providers, food and beverage outlets, and other tourism resources. It will integrate tourism and exhibition services such as sightseeing, water amusement, star-rated hotels, top events, conference and exhibitions, and tax-free retail to drive the growth of Malaysia tourism economy and become a regional and international tourist destinations. And the planner and designers had taken into consideration the green model city standards since the start of the project, aiming to achieve the harmony of building, environment, and residents. And here's some highlights of Forest City practices after 8 years constructions. First, vertical greenery. This entire city will be engulfed in green and parks with buildings of facades covered by plants. All the green plants will be irrigated by automatic irrigation systems to ensure timely maintenance. With the application of vertical greening, residents will not fully rely on air conditionings to adjust the indoor temperatures, which will significantly reduce the carbon dioxide emission. And we have utilized the water recycling system for the treat and use waters and used it for the irrigation of water gardens, vertical greenery, outdoor landscapes, as well as public toilet flushing, etc. And we have continuously cooperating with the professional environment to monitor the surrounding ecology, hydrology, and seagrasses, etc., and improve the surrounding marine ecosystem. And we have also actively promoting a green culture. And there are more than 20 online and offline activities executed since Go Green program introduced in 2019. And also in 2020, Forest City Eco Museum Phase 1 has completed and opened to public. And we have also integrated some of the smart city features, such as the smart urban management and operation systems. And we also introduced the service robots, and also the customized digital library access. And some of the highlights is the industrialized building systems. We have used this technology. It's applied to most of the buildings in the project. And this IBS is invested and set up the most advanced and largest plants in Malaysia. And It is the largest plant, and we have also have some international honors and recognitions, and promoting the technology of industrialized building system and a more environmental approach on construction. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wang, for giving us the update on the recent developments. It really is gaining shape a lot and in a very nice way. It's also interesting to see how the recommended principle of living with water is translated into practical solutions in your project. And we all hope that once the the travel-related restrictions are lifted, then some more events could perhaps even take place in the forest city.
Yes.
Thank you again. And we move on to Dr. Bob Yang, who is the professor of engineering and managing director of AECOM. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. It's the AECOM project in Tianjin. Dr. Yang, please.
Thank you. I'm very delighted to have this opportunity to share with you my slides. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see. Thank you.
So today, well, actually, I specialize in the landscape restoration in the ports. And I'm going to talk about ecological restoration landscape and how we're able to enhance coastal resilience in China. And I'm going to talk about the coastal ecology and restoration in China. Here you can see the coastal zone consists of several zones, including hinterland zone, associative zone, core zone, supporting zone, strategic zone. Here you can see the coastal zone spatial model. It consists of 5 zones. In the here you can see that there are several elements or coastal environmental elements. For example, we pay close attention to the wind there, the tidal waves there, the ocean current, the stilt wetland, elevation system, sea level rise, severe weather, so on and so forth. And of course, we also need to pay close attention to some hazardous events. Over the past 2 to 3 decades, there are some changes to the river mouth. Here you can see the Pearl River mouth, which is very close to Hong Kong. And you can see the changes from 1995 to 2020. The river mouth is shrinking, and some of the islands have disappeared. Here you can also see the Bohai Bay. Bohai Bay is near Tianjin. You can see the changes from 1995 to 2016. Great changes have taken place there. You can see the changes of the curve. It is related to the changes of the coastline in Bohai Bay. And it's quite visible. You just have to take a closer look. You will realize that basically from 1995 to 2016, the coastline have changed a lot. Over the past 3 decades, the coastlines of China have changed dramatically. I think it is related to the rapid development of the Chinese economy. It's also closely related to the development of heavy industry. And I'm going to share with you the pressure of the coastline in China. The first one is that nearshore marine environmental ecological quality is severely damaged. Secondly, it is related to the overexploitation of ocean with a large proportion as heavy industry. Besides, you can also see the damage and degradation of the island ecosystem. So based on this information, I'm going to go into the details and give a detailed report.
Besides, some rare marine ecosystems have been destroyed. For example, the bleaching of coral reefs. And we also face the invasion of other species into the local region. For example, the seagrass bed has been greatly reduced due to our damages and the invasion of our species. So actually we are facing a very severe ecological situation in China's coastal zone. And also we need to publish national policies to improve the ecological system. And of course, the Chinese government has implemented a lot of measures. And these measures is related to the restoration of the coastal areas and also the restoration of marine resources. And we have carried out a lot of concrete actions and also invested billions of RMB yuan and about tens of billions of yuan related resources have been invested in this area. And we are also strengthening our policies to improve the ecological system of the coastal areas to reduce our impact on the ocean. This is our efforts to improve and to restore the marine area. And we are improve our policy systems. Now let's look at what we have done in terms of the planning and design practice to restore the coastal regions. The coastal space actually consists of multiple functions. First of all, it's the spatial carrier of coastal ecological restoration. And it can increase the urban green open space. And another important thing is that it is the land and sea harmonious ecological buffer space, and also provides protective devices for our cities. And I will skip this point due to time limitation. In the past, we have a lot of challenges in terms of the restoration, including the artificial landscape and unecological quality. And we put forward the three-dimensional concept of a restore of the coastal areas. And we also promote the nature-based solution, which means we need to make use of the environmental dynamics and use of natural materials. And this kind of solution, NBS solutions, have been greatly promoted in China. And we also strengthen the cooperation with those construction teams. And here is some case studies. These case studies will be about China's coastal areas. And the first case is about China's Hong Kong. Hong Kong boasts 4.5 kilometers of coastal line. And we need to take into consideration the resilience of its coastal lines. And we found that it has a different types of coastal lines, and including the rocky ecological coastal lines and vertical ecological coastal lines, etc. And we'll customize our solutions according to different types of coastal lines. So we combine the quality and features with our solutions. And we all know that Hong Kong is a densely populated city, and it is also a compact city. So this requires a high requirement of resilience. So this is also the challenge that we are facing. And we have done a lot of research. For example, we try to hold water at low tide at the rocky eco shoreline. This is our effect image. And now let's look at the resilient vertical coastal line. Normally, we will use some ceramic plates, holes, and ecological blocks to create a rough surface so that some marine creatures can live there. And now let's look at the mangrove eco shoreline. We will try to achieve a soft coastal habitat restoration. And another thing is that mangrove also plays the role of providing landscape. And of course, it has the function of protecting the shoreline. So it has dual functions. This is an effect image of our design. So you can see the mangrove shoreline here. So by doing so, we are forming the linkage between the land and the ocean. So we are combining the landscape design and the restoration in our coastal restoration efforts. Here is another case. This is China's Rizhao Hailong Bay Beach restoration project. This is a very famous bay. It has a throughput of over 300 million tons. Now it's no longer used as a port and as an industrial port, but instead we begin to restore the port and to give a full play to its aesthetic values. So we try to restore the beaches and to release its potential as a public space and try to restore the ecological environment. And this is a real picture of the bay and the beaches after restoration. So after restoring the beaches, we can better protect the city, the inland city and the coastal city. So the restoration projects not only offer some protective effects, but also some landscape or sightseeing effects.
Here you can see it used to be a very special, it used to have a very special feature. And also we pay close attention to the local plants, such as the saline plants. At the same time, you can also see that we have taken into account the features of the coastal landscape. And mainly we have restored the marine ecology. We have built not only a park there, but also the eco corridor there. And I'm going to share with you two cases. The first one is Tianjin Eco City. The next one is it is called Nandi Coastal Park. It used to be the saline and alkaline land. They will restore the local coastline. And here you can see that we have built it into a coastal trail. On this trail, people can have a lot of activities. Here you can see the trail. And this is the site plan for the trail. Outside the trail, there is flat area. This is our strategy. Firstly, we respect the local landscape. On the other hand, we make full use of the flat area. And we also take into consideration the tides. When the tides are coming, we will have some solutions to deal with the to protect the coastline. This is the photo taken in 2017. And on the left-hand side, you can also see the photos taken after restoration. You can see a lot of beautiful scenery there. You can also see the trail where people can enjoy the beautiful scenery. And okay, and I'm going to wrap up quickly. Now let's look at water treatment. Here we have a green way. We also have the beautiful bridge for sightseeing. This is the landscape bridge, and I'm not going to go into the details. I can only go through the PowerPoints. You can see the beautiful pictures here. Here you can see after the ecological restoration, the air has been purified. Here you can see our design strategy. Basically, our resilient structure consists of safety, ecology, traffic, landscape, and nodes. We have taken a lot of elements into account. So those are the 6 landscape nodes, and those nodes are being constructed. They're under construction. Okay, thank you. I have just published a book, a monograph. It is called Coastal Zone. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Yang. I think I will be among the first subscribers to take a good look at your book. I might need a translation though, but I was really impressed by the well-illustrated presentation where you have shown us how how nature protection and environmental management can be very well integrated in the coastal zone management, so that the needs of nature and the needs of men and women can be combined and don't need to conflict. And at the same time, you have integrated the coastal protection from flooding in particular in such a way that it is not disturbing the land use. Thank you so much. Now, Christine, do we have an additional speaker in spite of the limited time, or how should we proceed? All right, then I invite Mr. Wang Junfu, the Chief Engineer from Shanghai Minye Real Estate and Development Company, to give us a succinct, brief additional presentation. Thank you. Mr. Wang, please.
Good afternoon. Could you please turn on your video? Thank you, moderator. Today, I'm going to share with you our model of sustainable development. Our project is located in Shanghai. Here you can see that the World City State 2022 has returned to the city of Shanghai. The World City State actually originated from Shanghai. Then in 2022, it returned to Shanghai. And thanks to the World City State, we are able to disseminate the knowledge about sustainability. In addition, the UN Habitat also launches Shanghai Award for Global Sustainable Development, Shanghai Award. So in Shanghai, there are several districts. There are also many projects there. And I'm sure that the projects in Shanghai are also examples of sustainability. Here, I would like to share with you our project, that is Hainan Town. It is an example of digital transformation of global city. We actually respect the nature. And in 2012, we have already completed the construction of this project. It was shortlisted as a demonstration zone of low carbon development. So far, Hainan Town covers an area of 330,000 square meters. It is actually an example of digital revolution. At the same time, I'm sure that we're going to present you a model of digital revolution. So far, it's also a landscape, or it's a landmark in Shanghai. Just as the Industrial Revolution originated from the urban transformation of Manchester and the electrification revolution benefited from the urban transformation of Chicago and New York, this town is more likely to spearhead the urban digital transformation of Shanghai and become the beginning of global urban digital revolution. It has brought together some digital talents here. It also has innovated the digital lifestyle here. A living life, the renewal of city center. Rebirth means daily renewal. We're going to review the vitality of the city center with organic innovation. In the city center, in this town, here you can see that it has many components. It is also adjacent. For example, it has a very traditional city center, that is the central mansion. The central mansion is located in the center of the town, and it is located in the heart of Putuo district, which is the center of Shanghai city. At the same time, here you can also see that we have international hotel, office building, and also we also have the commercial complex. It has attracted the settlement of some foreign companies, including Fortune 500 companies. Besides, many international brands are being sold here. So it is a place for recreation, for living, for entertainment. Actually, it took us 15 years to build such a project. In 15 years, we have been growing rapidly, and also you can see there are a lot of residential buildings here. It has also been developed into the third phase. We have residential areas. At the same time, you can also see the iteration of the buildings. It has been fully integrated into the natural landscape. It has witnessed the change of the design style and trend. This project is very fashionable. You can also experience a lot of cultural elements there. In these new modern times, we're going to realize the harmonious symbiosis between the man and nature. We want to realize the harmonious coexistence between the residents and the natural landscape. We have adopted the friendly symbiotic design. The senior citizens will actually bring us vigor and vitality. There are a lot of open spaces there where people can have their social life, people can interact with each other in the open space. It's even more important for us to realize carbon neutrality because this is the responsibility of green buildings. Globally, the building sector has emitted about 40 to 50% of the carbon dioxide. Therefore, if we are able to realize carbon peak or carbon neutrality, then I'm sure that China is going to realize its dual carbon goals. As a company, it's also our responsibility to help China to realize its carbon peak and carbon neutrality. Here you can see that we have won some awards, including WELL LEED Platinum certification and Green Building certifications. Our buildings are carbon reducing oriented. It's also residents friendly. We are dedicating ourselves to building healthy buildings for the residents. We would like to join hands to offer our best services to our suppliers, to our clients. For example, we use innovative technologies. We also select environmentally friendly materials. We also use environmentally friendly auxiliary materials. For instance, 70% of the products should be extremely environmentally friendly. Besides, we also save the resources during the process of building. For example, we will actually categorize the building wastes. We will recycle them. So the recycling rate is over 70%. We also adopt the construction machinery and equipment with high energy efficiency. We will also use energy-saving lighting fixtures. And also, we are going to use the methods to control the noise or control the dust during the process of construction. So basically, we pay close attention to environmental protection. For us, the process of construction is very important. So our buildings are green not only from the start, but during the operation process, it's also very green and environmentally friendly. So how are we able to maintain the vigor and vitality of the building after it has been completed? Firstly, we use high performance enclosure. So the buildings is able to adjust its temperature. Besides, we also use some temperature adjusting system technology. For instance, people can enjoy a very optimal environment within the building because of our special design. We also use natural lighting and natural ventilation. We make full use of the nature to offer us resources and energy. And I'm sure that our building will be long lasting. It will enjoy very long life. What about the future? I would like to share with you our future outlook. We want to have sustainable future. We also want to live in harmony with the nature. People are looking forward to sustainability. So that is the end of my presentation. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wang, for the compressed but informative presentation. You showed us the various awards that you have already gotten, and I believe I didn't see any GFHS award as yet, but I'm sure your projects would be fully eligible. So thank you for your presentation. We have practically already exhausted our time, but we have two commentators who I would like to invite to make very brief, succinct their presentations. So we start with, I don't know, Ms. Fu Jianping, the Deputy Secretary and Vice Chairman of the CPPCC Party Committee in Wuji County, Zhejiang. Please excuse me if I didn't pronounce the Chinese titles correctly.
It doesn't matter. Dear Dr. Rav, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm honored to be invited to the 17th annual session of Global Forum on Human Settlements. The speeches I have listened to are very in-depth and very wonderful. And also I have been inspired greatly by you. I'm going to share my views in the following aspects. Firstly, as a topic and research option, resilient city is quite timely and important. The sudden outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic and the rare drought in the Yangtze River Basin have enabled us to learn more about urban resilience. We also know how cities can operate as usual and maintain resilience in the growing and unpredictable risks and challenges. It is of great significance for the Global Forum of Human Settlements to carry out research, exploration, and experience and exchange. I think it's very important for GFHS to carry out research in this regard. Second, with the continuous expansion of the city and the improvement of transportation facilities, the villages around the urban center take on some functions of the urban center, relieving the pressure of overcrowded population, ensuring the supply of agricultural products, inheriting traditional culture, and providing ecological barriers and recreational spaces. The unique ecological environment of the villages has attracted urban residents for short-term outdoor activities. Therefore, building a resilient village is of great significance for the development of resilient cities. Third, Why was Tantou Village, Lutan Town, Wuyi County, Zhejiang Province, China, shortlisted for the Global Village Model of Human Settlements Award at this Global Forum of Human Settlements? There are mainly two reasons. Firstly, this village shows the resilience of humanity. This ancient village, with a history of more than 750 years, preserves nearly 18,000 square meters of ancient buildings dating back to the Ming and Qing dynasties, housing boutique homestays, cultural and creative industries, specialty restaurants, and so on. Many scholars and writers have set up poetry clubs, painting galleries, studios here. On the other hand, Tantou Village shows the natural resilience. Wuyi River and Bailu River meet here with thousands of acres of wetlands. There were luxurious pine forests and reeds, flocks of fish swimming in the river. The picturesque environment is full of vigor and vitality. Here, people can take some time of their busy working schedule and encourage and relieve themselves from high pressure in this resilient village. Under the guidance and encouragement of the Global Forum on Human Settlements, Tantou Village will become a real example of global human settlements with a more humane, natural, and resilient attitude. Also invite you to visit Tantou Village. Thank you. That is all from me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fu, or in particular also for the invitation. We do hope that there will be such opportunity in the not too distant future. I would like to invite now Mr. Zhang Yi, the General Manager of Suzhou City Daijin Real Estate Company, to make his comments and brief remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be present to give a speech. My name is Zhang Yi. I was very much inspired by the speech of the experts dealing with the climate crisis and building resilient cities and communities, our common pursuit. Like mentioned, is located in Taipei New Town, Wuzhong, Suzhou, which represents the ambition of the Suzhou. Therefore, we believe that in our new town, ecology is more important than business and facilities shall be built before residents move in. We have been actively building various supporting facilities, vigorously developing green buildings, implementing small city strategies, and enhancing livability. We look forward to achieving more sustainable development in Taipei New Town. Taipei New Town is also a new livable center in Suzhou. Here we enjoy beautiful natural scenery against the backdrop of Taipei Lake and Zhong Lake to enable people to emerge in the nature. We have created an interactive landscape with high greening rate so that abundant green infrastructure public space can bring greater resilience and inclusiveness to the community and make the settlements diverse, complex, and nature positive. Finally, on behalf of Data Regulation, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the organizing committee of the Global Forum on Human Settlements and all the aspects. The Sustainable Cities and Human Settlement Award is a recognition of our community, which is very meaningful to us. In the future, we as a state-owned enterprise, as always, will adhere to our standards and make our future contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zhang. And the final commentator is Mr. Mao Hude, the president of MAO Architectural Design Consulting Company. Mr. Mao, please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good morning. I'm very honored to attend this forum. I was very inspired by the speeches of our guests. Now, I would like to share with you the features of our real estate, Gangjiang New District Traditional Chinese Medicine International Ecotech City, and our practices in building resilient cities. Gangjiang New District Traditional Chinese Medicine International Ecotech City has a planning area of 938 hectares, and the site has its remarkable landscape with 3 mountains outside and abundant water resources inside. We will create an ideal city for Nanchang people, which works in concert with nature and ecology. And the main highlights of our planning scheme are as follows. Highlight number 1, ecological planning based on local conditions and interwoven with the water system and greenery. Learning from Nanchang City's building concepts of lake in the city, city in the lake, we divert water into the city, judge the original waterways and convert into the central lake. The water system follows the terrain and meanders to form 6 ecological green corridors. On these spaces, the natural
The third highlight is that it has functional planning of people-oriented low-carbon life. In order to advocate people to practice a low-carbon lifestyle, our proposal combines low-carbon environmental protection with livability and industry to take care of all aspects of production and life for people of different ages. The fourth highlight is architectural planning that integrates innovation and green production capacity. By integrating with nature, our proposal optimizes the allocation of various buildings and advocates low-carbon buildings. At the same time, we adopt the BIPV strategy to integrate intelligent PV and green buildings for innovative development. Highlight 5 is traffic planning, which is orderly and efficient. To ensure safe and clear traffic, we organize the road network reasonably for the efficient connection between motorized and non-motorized traffic. In addition, the open cloud data platform will analyze and share various traffic and service information in real times as well. And highlight 6 is smart city planning of security, intelligence, and innovation in the future. Scientific and technological wisdom are used to ensure safety and health. In terms of urban waterlogging prevention, the design of smart dams and river courses not only play roles in resisting floods, but also meet the needs of people's demand for sightseeing. In terms of the construction of intelligent facilities, intelligent access control, video surveillance, and other intelligent management facilities are added to the community to fully ensure the safety of residents' daily life. We already tried those highlights in our projects so as to ensure that Nanchang people will enjoy an ideal city. That is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mao. This brings us to the conclusion of the comments. I would like to refrain from attempting to summarize the presentations, but I would like to thank all the presenters and the commentators for their professional contributions to the program of this session. I think we have covered many issues. We have heard from many examples. There is, of course, a lot more information available than what could be presented or discussed in this 90 minutes. But I believe that you will have opportunity to exchange beyond the forum and also follow up on future documentations. So on this note, please join me to thank all our presenters, and I would like to conclude with an apology to Christina for taking 5 minutes of her time. I wish you all the best and thank you. I will try to summarize some important points later in the program. Thank you. Over to you, Christina.